Okay, guys, and we're back with another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest. I'm Seth from the Lonely Solo Podcast, and this is episode 15 of the Seth Solo Side Quest. And as usual, we'll talk about a wide range of topics. I say a wide range of topics. We typically talk about boxing and MMA. But yeah, let's get straight back into it. So, first article I'm looking at is an article that's talking about former boxing world champion Paulie Malignaggo talking about Gervonta Tank Davis and saying that Tank Davis is killing the sport to line his pockets. He's essentially saying that Tank Davis is sort of like cherry picking his opponents and just trying to make easy money by beating up poor opposition on pay-per-view. And as much as I do hear that, because Tank he's in the sort of weight categories and weight classes that are similar to a lot of big stars in boxing at the moment. So guys like Lomachenko, Devin Haney. Devin Haney's a bit bigger, but these sorts of guys, Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos, these are some of the big names in the sport that Gervonta Davis hasn't fought yet. But to say that Tank's killing the sport, I'm not sure if I'd agree with that. Tank's currently 30-0 with 28 knockouts, and Paulie's saying that essentially Tank's just been overpaid, and he's a 30-0 world champion who's fought very little or very few world-class opponents, and nobody that he's beaten will be a future Hall of Famer, is Paulie's point. Which, when you put it like that, I do agree with what Paulie's saying, but it's difficult because from a business point of view, I completely appreciate what Tank and Tank's management is doing, because to be honest, I do the exact same thing. You, as a boxer, you want to get the biggest payday for the least amount of risk. That's what you want, right? So Gervonta's best wins is Ryan Garcia, who's dragged down to a really low weight class that he couldn't really perform at, but at the end of the day, you can only beat what's in front of you. Gervonta Davis beat Ryan Garcia. Frank Martin, a guy with a decent resume, but like Paulie's saying, will never be a Hall of Famer. Isaac Cruz, a good opponent, nothing special, but again, these guys, they're not future Hall of Famers. And then you compare it to someone like Floyd, who was Tank's quote-unquote mentor early in his career, and you look at Floyd's resume and you see back-to-back future Hall of Famers there. You know, whether it's Pacquiao or De La Hoya or Miguel Cotto or Canelo, a lot of guys there. Gervonta Davis has got not a single person like that on his resume. Not a single person. So I do kind of appreciate what Paulie's saying, but at the same time, it is business, and you need to be you want to make as much money as you can without taking as little risk as possible. And to be fair, this happens a lot in boxing. So for Paulie to single out Gervonta Davis is a touch unfair, if you ask me, because this happens across the sport, right? So when Gervonta Davis does get a big fight against the likes of, I don't know, a Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, a Lomachenko, you know, these sorts of guys, these should now be gigantic fights, because you're facing, obviously, Shakur Stevens and Keyshawn Davis are undefeated boxers, and then Lomachenko's quite a big name in the sport as well. So by the time you fight those guys, you should be looking at a huge payday. But I think Paulie Malignaggo's point is that he should have been fighting these guys and shouldn't be waiting another 5-10 fights to get him to 35-0 before he fights one of these guys, because these guys are, you know, bona fide contenders. Bona fide like number one contenders for his championship. But we'll see what's next for Gervonta Davis. He's undefeated, world champion. I do hear what Paulie's saying, where he's got to the top without fighting a single super world-class guy. You know, but he's knocking everyone out, which I guess kind of is his claim to fame. He's knocking everyone out, but we'll see what's next for Tank Davis, and we'll see how well his age is, because if Gervonta Davis goes on to fight a number of... if he goes on to fight the guys who I just named and he knocks them out, then he's kind of made Paulie eat his words kind of thing. But at this rate, it doesn't even look like he'll be fighting any of these guys. But we'll see. Oh, we'll even see an alternative potentially if Gervonta kind of or Paulie said that Gervonta could take the coward's way out by vacating or retiring. If he does that, then his reputation is kind of cooked. But we'll see what happens there. I mean, I thought it was an interesting comment from Paulie Malignaggo, and at the time when I was reading it, I kind of didn't agree because I was thinking, well, Paulie, you're saying this, but you look at a guy like Floyd. Floyd kind of did the same thing, but I'm thinking about Floyd's resume. But Floyd fought a lot of Hall of Famers. He fought a lot of world champions, and done it at a lot of weight classes too. So to put Floyd and Gervonta in the same sort of conversation regarding lining their pockets, obviously Floyd's got paid, but he's fought the top guys. Of course, he didn't fight Pacquiao in his prime, but you can make the same argument that Floyd wasn't in his prime either. You think Floyd was just in a time machine? Floyd was fighting as well and was getting miles on the clock and was getting older too. Both of these guys were getting older. So I don't rate the criticism about Floyd that he waited for Pacquiao to be out of his prime, because Floyd was getting old as well. And obviously they put on a pretty boring fight because Floyd just dominated him. Not dominated him, dominated him defensively. Pacquiao couldn't really get anything going and couldn't really land anything significant on him over the 12-round fight, and Floyd just walked his way to a decision, as he does against so many world champions that he faced. But yeah, that'll be that for that one. And then we had another one here that I saw an article about this fighter called Abel Mendoza, right? Now, Abel Mendoza is a American, probably got Mexican heritage boxer who's only 29. And what weight class does he fight at? Let's have a look. He fights at lightweight, right? Abel Mendoza is 42-0 at the age of 29 with 31 knockouts. And this is what I love about boxing, right? This guy is 42-0. I have never heard of this brother. I've never heard of this guy. 42-0 with a lot of knockouts too. Let's look at his amateur record if we can. 7-5 as an amateur, so he's pretty bad as an amateur. To be fair, that's an embarrassing amateur record to be honest. Actually, 7-5, Jesus. Okay, yeah, let's focus on the pro. But to be fair, 42-0 as a pro, I don't really care if he had a bad amateur career. He clearly did, but he's probably a lot younger then. 42-0, and I'm looking through this guy's resume. I do not recognise a single name on here. He's fighting the bums of bums. He's fighting in where's this? Colombia, Jamaica, Mexico, America. Yeah, he's probably fighting these bums. But I've never heard of this dude. He's 42-0. Surely he's going to be looking at some sort of world title fight soon. He's fighting... In 2024, he fought 3 times, which is good. Well, more than good. That's very impressive. You don't see many boxers fighting that often, but... Yeah, the guys he was fighting are awful. He fought one guy called German Ivan Meraz, who had a record of 65-69. At that point, bro, just give it up, G. Just give it up. So, but he fought 3 times in 2024. How many times did he fight in 2023? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He fought 6 times in 2023. So I'm not surprised that he's racking up this record, because he's fighting these guys, and I'm assuming he's knocking a lot of these guys out. He must be if he's got 31 knockouts. But Abel Mendoza is a guy who, from now on, I guess I'm gonna kind of keep an eye on him, because to be 42-0 in the lightweight division, and I've never heard of you, you're doing something, right? You're doing something. I know you're facing bums, because I don't know a single name on here. You're facing bums, but you can only beat what's in front of you, to be fair. So we'll see what's next for Abel Mendoza. We'll see how far this guy can go. If he can get his way to a title shot. I wonder where he's ranked. I've got no idea where this guy's ranked. What's his ranking? 67 in the world. Ranked number 67 in the world. I mean, bro, he needs to get your money up and get your record up, bro. I mean, his record's up. He needs to get his ranking up, I guess. But yeah, Abel Mendoza, it was an interesting one that I just kind of saw. I was like, this dude's 42-0, and I've never heard of this guy. So I looked into it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he's fighting bums, so of course I'm not going to know this guy, but we'll see. A lot of fights in Mexico, some fights in Colombia, America, a few fights in America. I respect it, The guy, he's on his come up. He's only young. He's only 29. He's probably getting paid a decent amount. I mean, probably not actually, but he'll stay undefeated, and eventually he'll probably get a big payday. maybe he'll end up fighting Gervonta Davis, make a few mil off that, probably get his chin spun, and take it from there. Probably retire or something. But Abel Mendoza is the guy I'm gonna keep my eye on and see what he does in the boxing space. He could be a good fighter to keep an eye on. I mean, 42-0, you got to keep an eye on him. You know, that's a serious record. Not just anyone can get that sort of record in boxing. So we'll see what's next for Abel Mendoza. And also just got announced that former Bellator fighter James Gallagher got granted his release from PFL. Now James Gallagher is he's a pretty bad fighter, to be honest. He's pretty mid for the most part, if we're being honest. He's been fighting at Bellator for a good few years now. I want to say he's been fighting at Bellator for a better part of 10 years. He's been fighting in Bellator. Joined Bellator when he was 3-0. Yeah, joined Bellator at 3-0. He's a guy who, I mean, really got his claim to fame by being a poor man's version of Conor McGregor. So he was an Irish guy, skinny little Irish guy, featherweight, a lot of tattoos, big mouth. Obviously, unlike Conor, he couldn't back it up because he would lose fights. And Conor at featherweight wasn't losing fights. And obviously he's at Bellator, which is already less than. James Gallagher, he's been announced that he's got his PFL release. I don't know where he goes now because he's not. I mean, he could go to the UFC, but he'd just get absolutely his chin spun every fight because he's not good enough. I don't know where he goes now. If he goes to One or Rising, Cage Warrior, maybe he goes back to Cage Warriors. I don't know, because this guy he won't make it. I can never be a world champion in MMA. I mean, that speaks for itself. We look at his record. And the guys he's losing to, you can't be losing to these guys if you want to become something in the sport, right? So he starts his career, makes it to Bellator, has a few fights in Bellator, wins them. Then he gets his chin spun by Ricky Bandejas. I remember that fight. That was quite a bad knockout. Got his ass cooked there. So he loses that fight. He then goes on to put together a couple more wins. Stephen Graham, Jeremiah Labiano. These are bums, by the way. Make no mistake. These are guys who I've never heard of and have gone on to do nothing in the sport. But Roman Salazar, nobody. Cal Elenor, I don't know. No idea who on earth these guys are. So James Gallagher should be beating these guys. But then he fights a guy called Patchy Mix. That name sounds how I've said it. Patchy Mix. No idea who this guy is, but he chokes out James Gallagher in the third round. So that already, bro, you're losing fights like that, bro. You already know you're probably not going to do anything in this sport. He then fights a guy called James Gonzalez, wins a split decision, whatever. Then he fights Leandro Higo, loses, and then fights a guy called Movlid. Yeah, bro, these Russian names are insane. Movlid Kabyurt. Yeah, I'm not even going to try that. Yeah, dude's cooked and loses the decision to him as well. So he's coming off. Oh no, that was a grappling match, to be fair. Okay, grappling match, so I won't count that then. But his last Bellator fight, he lost a unanimous decision, right? And he's currently, what's his rank? What's his MMA record? He's 12-3. So not a terrible record for MMA, but you look at this guy's skill set, you look at his losses. This is a guy who's not a good striker. He's predominantly known for being a grappler, but he's out here getting submitted by a guy called Patchy Mix. You know, come on, bro. You got submitted by a guy called Patchy Mix, and you're supposed to be a grappler. He's not a good striker at all, to be honest. From what I've seen, to be fair, I haven't watched a James Gallagher fight in a few years, and I'm not planning on watching another one anytime soon. But not a particularly good striker. He's more of a grappler. He's got some grappling pedigree. To be honest, from what I've seen of him, he doesn't look like that great of a grappler. From what I see, but maybe that's because when I'm more looking for like wrestling control, and he's not got that. He might have good grappling in terms of good jiu-jitsu, but can you actually control a fight? Because if you get taken down, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, nowadays, the level of jiu-jitsu is a lot higher in MMA, so you see submissions off the back, you see guys attacking off the back, but it's different. It's different. But yeah, that's gonna be it from me. Another episode of Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.